All right, so I did the artsy one earlier. I saved the fun one for now. And the fun one in question is Trouble Man from 1972.
Oh yeah.
And
Sorry.
this was infamously written about in Michael and Harry Medved's 50 worst films of all time.
Oh God.
And
Medved, the devil.
yes, the Medveds. And although it's kind of funny, realistically, I mean, my wife bought this. My wife got this like I forget how long ago, but she was actually tackling it for I think the Projection Booth podcast, and she and I sat and watched it, and we enjoyed the hell out of it. Man, it is. I don't know. I would go as far as say it's no better, no worse than a lot of the subgenre, and stars Robert Hooks as Mr. T, aka the the titular trouble man, I guess. But he's
Before there was an actual guy, Mr. T, there was this character.
yes, and he is. I think I spent half this movie trying to figure out what the hell he did.
Yeah.
It seems he's some kind of an underground figure, kind of an underworld figure, but at the same time, he's almost got like this Robin Hood type stature in the
Yeah.
community. It's like he's like,
He's kind
you
of the
know,
go-to guy for everybody.
yeah, he's and I kind of looked on IMDb and saw him referred to as a quote unquote like neighborhood problem solver.
Right,
And
right. Go to Mr. T if you got trouble, man. Get it?
but
Trouble, man.
yeah, so he's in this but he I don't know, seems to be working adjacent with several businesses, a pool hall, Jimmy's Pool Hall, which is run by I having just rewatched the movie, I can't think of the actor's name. He's actually the guy in Dirty Harry who works over Scorpio, but he plays Jimmy.
Okay. Okay.
And just and they're buds and a lot of folks that were kind of popping up in movies at the time, Paul Winfield plays the
Oh, cool.
one of the main characters, Chalky Price, who's kind of a small time hood in the neighborhood, and he hooks up with Peter Cockerell, who is played by Ralph Way,
Oh
Daddy
yeah, he's a
Walton
loathsome
himself.
motherfucker. Not like Papa Walton.
Huh?
And he's nothing like Papa Walton in
No,
this.
no, he's not. He's downright nasty, and but a lot of folks will pop up in this. It's like
I think this
um
is it Julius Harris in a small role.
Julius Harris plays Big, who's one of the big I would say mob guys, but
I
definitely one of the
love
big
Julius
crime
Harris. Yeah.
bosses of the area. He's fantastic in everything he plays. But they're and yeah, directed by Ivan Dixon. Speaking of black
Three
filmmakers,
for three. So this guy directed
yeah.
Nothing But a Man, which
Mhm.
for its day was like groundbreaking independent film. Like this was like 64, I think he did it. And drama, fantastic. Then he went on to act in Hogan's Heroes. Then coming off that, he did a movie that I covered under our anti-hero show, The Spook Who Sat by the Door, which
Oh yeah,
is my second personal favorite film in this entire subgenre. It's one of my top 20 movies. It's just unbelievable. And then yes, and then now he does this. So it's
but yeah.
fascinating.
So great, kind of revolutionary activist filmmaker.
Very underrated African American director. Very.
Yeah. And so Mr. T kind of gets part of his neighborhood troubleshooter reputation, has him Chalky and Pete decide to pull him into this whole thing because they're running these kind of house rackets where they got people playing craps and whatnot, and they're all getting stuck up by these mysterious hoods who were wearing black hoods and just kind of going in and busting things up and stealing everyone's money, and no one ever gets a good look at them. And so he's like, "Can you set up security in these places so we don't get hit?"
Yeah.
And he says, "All right, for what little you're paying me, I'll show up for free and see what kind of a problem you got." And they've got a whole racket going where they've got another group of guys, or one guy who they've set up with a black hood in the next room. And so the guys with black hoods hit the place, steal everybody's money, and take off.
Bastards. No, I'm just kidding.
As they're running out the door, T's running down the stairs trying to get a look at them. Uh, this one other guy who's being held in the back room kind of gets shoved out into the hallway, and Chalky guns him down.
Mm.
And they run up to this dead guy, pull off his mask, and he's a guy who's attached to Big.
Mm.
And so, okay, so these people, yeah, because they're showing you the other side of this, that they're actually doing T dirty here, and this is something that they're rigging up. And so he's like, "This is one of Big's guys," which would mean that Big's hitting you, but I'm not sure I buy it. Something seems weird about it, but he goes off and he thinks about checking it out. And pretty much as the movie progresses, you basically find out, yeah, Chalky and Pete are basically playing T and Big against each other,
Mm.
and with the police in the middle angling to bust this whole thing up. And so it kind of basically turns into these people who've hired T, and that they're actually trying to play him and set him up. And he kind of slowly comes around to the realization that it's them. And he starts making moves to set them up.
Okay.
And so great fun little action, great fun little mob action flick.
Oh
And
yeah.
I enjoyed it quite a bit.
Yeah, I love the soundtrack. Isn't that Marvin Gaye?
Yeah,
Yeah, that
Marvin Gaye
song
does
Trouble
soundtrack.
Man is Trouble
Oh yeah,
Man.
yeah. No, Heather and I fired up the Blu-ray, got it on that song, and I was like, "Oh,
I need to
okay,
upgrade to Blu-ray. I
we're
still have
there."
the DVD.
Yeah.
That's funny because that was used in the MCU really well. I don't know if you remember, any of y'all saw Captain America: The Winter Soldier, but when he meets Sam Wilson, he's trying to, Steve's trying to catch up from being on ice for 60 years. So he's trying to understand things about the culture today and things that have happened since he was in ice. So Sam Wilson says, Trouble Man, Marvin Gaye, man, you gotta watch, you gotta listen to it, man. And he's like, okay, let me get my Trouble Man, Marvin, and you hear the song, later on, and they call back to it in the Falcon and the Winter Soldier series because Sam Wilson mentions it again to Bucky, and of all people, Baron Zemo, who in the comics, was a Nazi. And this one, he's just kind of like a mercenary. And he's like, yes, African American culture, an all time classic for sure. Like he's like into it too. And I'm like, it's so unlikely, but Daniel Bruhl plays it so cool that it's just like totally believable. But
the
anyway.
Mar the Marvel Studios were doing some pretty excellent stuff with soundtracks at that time.
Yeah, they put unexpected songs. Like they put Dear Mr. Fantasy at the beginning of either Endgame or Infinity War.
Yeah. My
Oh,
whole thing was just being riveted by the Luke Cage series and just
oh,
really
that had
being into the
incredible
soundtrack.
music.
Yeah.
And it's second two when he battles who's that Bushmaster. I fucking
Yeah.
loved that actor and that character, man. He character's a bit different from the comics, but he gets his powers like Luke Cage, but they're like through voodoo basically. Yeah. And there's a scene where
Yeah,
they're slugging it out on the bridge.
oh, the bridge scene. Yeah, that's right. Yeah, that
Oh
was
my
good.
God, they're slugging out for like 10 minutes on a bridge. It's like they live, you know? And
Yeah.
uh, that episode ran over an hour and they didn't cut it. You know, those shows got so to the point where they were way longer than hour shows. And, but that season, because of that character being from the Caribbean, they started using a lot of reggae. And I think they did finally use Night Nurse because, of course, Luke Cage makes love to literally the night nurse, Claire Temple. And Night Nurse, I'm sure everyone here's heard it. You know, to me, one of the maybe top 3 greatest reggae love ballads in the history of humanity. But that's just me. I like to if I meet a woman, I like to woo them, especially if they're in the medical field. I'll send them Night Nurse. But sometimes it works, and sometimes not everybody's into reggae like I am, so they're lost. But anyway,
one of those.
Like some Bob Marley, dude.
Right, Chuck, that was superb.
Yep.
Are you bowing out now, Justin, or would you like to share Briggy's contribution?
Yeah, I might have to go, unfortunately.
Okay.
Because I've just
no pressure.
Wrap it up. But yeah, it's been fun. I've enjoyed it. So
me too, man.
It's good. I'm going to check out a couple of those movies that others have spoken about as well.
Okay.
Until next time.
You think you'll be able to make it next Friday?
Yeah, well, Saturday my time. I'll aim to do that. Yeah, absolutely.
Okay,
we'll stay in touch. Okay, bye-bye.
Bye, Justin.
See ya.
Rock on. Easy. So I want to take a minute before we go on to tell everybody to like and subscribe to this channel. Our subscriptions were going on the incline, and now they're actually on the decline. So I don't know if people are just weeding through channels they don't watch, or something that we've done has, put them off. Of course, being paranoid at times, I think the latter, but hopefully it's not the reason. So our subscriptions we're losing subscriptions, not massively, but just incrementally, and then we'll gain them back incrementally, but we can't seem to get over this hump. So we've got to get to 500 as soon as possible so we can make this like a legit thing.
Right.
So please help.
Algorithm. Yeah, I'm sorry. You know the algorithm.
Algorithms don't know we exist yet. They don't recommend this. But I will tell you one thing about this. The more, maybe everybody here knows that, for the audience, the more views something gets, the more views it will get. It's like survival of the fittest. So if you watch our videos, regularly and push them up, then even more people will get them in their recommends and will fight the algorithm, the sea of algorithms. And same with likes. The likes will push them up, and even comments. We've been getting some great comments. And our last video that I posted before the Yvette Izan interview, posted today for our 1-year anniversary. Check it out, episode 117, exclusive interview with the cult star Yvette Izan. She's broadcasting live from the Philippines. Well, live when we recorded her. Me and Tim interviewed her. It was amazing. And but the episode before that, 2 episodes before that, prior to the Tarzan episode that Keith did that Justin loves so much, we did The Good Place. Bill did The Good Place, and Chuck did. I think Chuck did one on that one. Or am I wrong? There's one where you did the Gong Show, and that episode did really well.
Yeah, there was that one. I think I did All That Glitters after that.
It is. It's The Good Place and All That Glitters. So this has been up like 3 days, and it's got like 150 views and like 20 likes.
Weird.
I'm like, I don't know, all the Good Place fans, like, I don't know, all the Ted Danson nuts, like, we're like, yeah, Ted Danson, Kristen Bell, they're finally covering some real stuff, not this bullshit,
That's bullshit that was made before I was born.
Yeah, man. But actually, Linda Gray, that graphic I got of Linda Gray, I made that collage. I made it just for you, Chuck. I took a cover of a TV guide and I edited around out the lettering in the background and layered it. And then I took the logo from All It Glitters and put it on black against her black leather jacket. So an original piece of work. And everyone knows who she is, so that might have something to do with it. I don't think it hurts. So anyway, Briggy.
Yeah.
What do you have for us, ma'am?
Okay, so this movie, oh wait, am I muted? No, I'm not.
I hope
So
not.
this movie, it's kind of like it's sort of it's a twofer, but not quite a twofer. The subtext, well, the movie is imitation of life. If
Now,
there's
are you doing both or which version?
no, okay, so no, I'm going to do the 1959 version with Lana Turner.
Yes.
Douglas
As
Sirk
Yeah.
did that, correct?
did I don't know.
Is it Douglas Sirk the director?
Oh, I think so. Yeah. I think
The king of
so. Let me
melodramas.
see. Yeah, I think so. But the first one was done in 1934 with Colbert.
Mm-hmm.
So she
Hmm.
was like a very big, actress as well. And Lana Turner, of course, was a very big actress as well in her time. So that was Lana Turner. And Juanita Moore, who plays, I guess they let me just get into it. So
Yeah.
the crux of it is the Lana Turner character, who is a single mother who's divorced. And this is the 1950s we're talking about here. So context certain does matter. And she
Yeah.
meets um, a black woman with her daughter at the beach. And it turns out that the black woman is her husband dies, but she's got a child who Lana Turner and her little daughter they don't they think that she's basically
Okay.
taking care of this child because she is so fair.
Mm-hmm.
And Lana Turner's actually surprised that this little girl isn't like being taken care of by this black woman who is clearly black, but her daughter is very fair, so fair that she passes or she could pass for white. So that was kind of a
Mhm.
shock to Lana Turner's character, but she kind of went with it. It turns out that they were both the Juanita Moore character. She was kind of destitute in a way. She becomes friends with the Lana Turner character, and then they start a friendship, and she decides, you know what, I need help with my little girl. Will you help take care of my little girl too? Lana Turner's an aspiring actress, and she's really working her way up to trying to be something more than just basically like a commercial actress, which is what she was at the time, but not really much success. Um, the movie, there is that, like in the other review that I just did of American Fiction, you have the white people in this world that's being constructed around whiteness and how black people survive and navigate in that world.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Um, and since uh, since Juanita Moore has this child who looks white, there is always a lot of tension.
Mm-hmm.
Where they go, how they can maneuver. Um, why is this? Why does why? Where's the father of this little white girl? But she's really not white. In the movie, they just say that her father was very fair, which, of course, happens.
He could have been white
Um,
though. I don't
I'm
know.
sorry.
Maybe he was white. I don't know.
No, in the movie, Juanita Moore, whose name in the movie is her name is Annie Johnson. Um, she says that her father was very fair, so that does happen. That he
Yeah, it's like
was
a
black,
recessive gene or whatever.
right? Exactly. Um, so the movie sort of builds in terms of Lana Turner's character becoming successful as an actress, and the Juanita Moore character still maintains a friendship, and they move in together. And since she just won't take handouts, she's like, "Look, I'll work for you. My little girl needs a roof over her head, and she wants her to be educated. She wants to try to give her a better life." But as they grow up, there is that tug of war between um, Juanita Moore's child, who is physically passing as a white woman, really fighting against that. And that's where a lot of the
Yeah.
tension comes in between the mother and the daughter. The mother is trying to teach her, like, you should be proud of who you are. You should just embrace who you are. But but the daughter sees like, look, if I decide I'm going to be white, I don't want to live this way. I don't want to have to go through back doors, and I don't want to have to, go to poor schools. I want a better life. And if I can use this as a vehicle to do that, why not? Now, that just goes into just how this has happened, of course, in real life, in history, how Black people have done that as a survival mechanism, as a tool to become greater than what the society, the dominant society, would allow them to be. And that has happened. I mean, like, I'm sure you guys are aware of this, and the people watching this, that this happens all the time or has happened all the time. I don't see any reason why a person would have to try and pass now in our current situation. But back then, it really was a matter of life or death. But there are pivotal parts and moments in the movie where, oh, the person, let me just get her name. I didn't even say her name. Her name is Sarah Jones. This is the daughter.
No, she's a white actress, though, correct?
Right. She is a white actress in real life. Yes, she is. Yes, she's a real. Yes,
see, that would never fly nowadays. I mean, yeah.
In terms of what? Like what?
Because everybody get mad and say they need an authentic mixed person. Because that's kind of, I'm talking about the mainstream, because they always want a trans person to play a trans character. They always want a white, a Black person to play even a white looking Black person. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
authenticity, which on many levels, I'm totally in agreement with. On other levels, I'm like, well, by the same token, there are characters that could be either race, it doesn't matter. Right. So it just depends on the character.
Yeah, I mean, and I can accept a white person playing this role, even if they remade this movie today, because there are very, very light-skinned white people. And here is another element of this movie that is not spoken about because, well, I don't think they had time to, and I don't think that was really where the direction the movie they wanted the movie to go to. But there is within the Black culture, there is colorism within that, and within our culture,
there's levels of coloration.
Right. There's colorism, strata. And that is just another form of white supremacy that has invaded our culture, that is maintained and structurally upheld within the Black community by Black people.
Like, white people are telling you the whiter you are, the better you are. And then the Black community bought it. And so they started discriminating against their own in these ways. And when I was in high school, I knew a lot of Black girls. They were the only girls that talked to me in high school. And I would hear the Black guys describe them. And a lot of them were racially mixed. And they'd be like, that one's red bone, that one's high yellow. High yellow is one of the more desirable ones to the white people, that kind of, you probably know all this, but it's just, it's crazy. I found that at a young age, and I found it like, what does it matter? That's just how I felt,
No, I understand. Like, you would feel that way, but these structures of racism, I did not grow up that way. Thank God. I didn't grow up in my household. I'm West Indian, but we didn't grow up hearing any of that stuff whatsoever. We did not hear about this sort of hierarchy of color. You have to be as light as a paper bag to get into this club or that club, or which they did. They would have a paper bag. They hold an award, or
a beige paper bag, or white paper.
Yeah, like a beige one, like a brown paper bag. If you were darker than that, then you couldn't get in. There are places right now that have societies that are still doing that, like secret little societies within the Black community that are still doing that. Or if you could not, I know I'm sort of going off a little bit here, or let's say if they could not see the veins in your arms that were not blue, then you couldn't get in because you were too dark. I mean, these things are real. These things are still happening today, which is kind of sad, but
stressing.
But understand it's propped up and upheld within the Black community. So it just as an aside
note, it's because they've been, brainwashed by Stockholm syndrome, by white racism. I mean, that's how I see it. Because I don't think left to your own devices. Maybe I'm wrong, but it has to happen in America, because America is where you had the biggest infusion of white people having sex with black people. So that's how that became. This wouldn't happen in Africa probably, though is a spectrum of color in Africa, even within non-white blooded Africans. Like I've seen redheaded Africans that are naturally redheaded and they have no white blood and have blue eyes, but those are more the exceptions,
I
But
mean, yeah, there are Africans that have blonde hair. I mean,
yeah,
so these blue eyes, these blonde, it is not exclusive to that. I mean, we can get into all of, into that as well at some other time, but I totally understand where you're coming from with that. So this colorism that exists within the Black community, this is also part of that in this movie,
mm-hmm.
where the fact that she can pass and and free herself from the shackles of not just her own blackness, but from the what comes with that, which is not being treated humanely. So she falls in love with or a young boy who's played by, I forget who plays, but if I tell you the name, you would know. It's like
A white
sort of
guy
like a hunky, star of the
of that
time.
era. Yeah.
And they fall in love, but she doesn't tell him, "Oh, my mom is black and I'm really black." But then people start to whisper and they find out. He confronts her and it's like, I heard you were black." Like, and she's like, "No." Like, she's completely shocked. She's like, "Oh my God, he found out." But then he's like so offended, he starts to attack her, he smacks her, he beats her up, and then she attributes that beating to her mother. So she
Mm.
runs away and decides, "I want nothing to do with you." But the mother is so in love with her and wants to care for her. She keeps tracking her down, and the mother is like, "Look, no matter where you go, I'm going to find you because you're my baby and I want to love you." But where her daughter is going into white spaces, getting jobs and getting pretty good jobs. But the mother will show up and then they'll think, "Oh, is this your mammy?" Like, and then the mother at some point just goes, "Yeah, I'm her mammy and I
She's
need to take
ashamed
care
of
of
her
her."
mother. Good
Yeah,
Lord.
she was completely ashamed
Yeah.
of her, but it's a very heartbreaking story on many levels because of the love the mother has for the daughter. The daughter can't see
Right.
that because she's blinded by a better world, a better life that she sees outside of that. And no matter how much her mother tries to instill in her who she is to be authentic to who she is, she just wants to escape that because she sees absolutely no upside to being black at all, like nowhere, no how, and finds that living in a white world a lot more easier, more comfortable.
Until the
And
white boyfriend beats her up.
until or until she maybe, I don't know, has a child. I mean, she is black and that child could come out as dark as her mother was. And then what do you say
Yeah.
then? You know what I mean? So that does that, even if she married a white guy, like
At
that
least
could
she
still
told him before
happen.
they got married, so she got the beating out of the way before they had a
I
kid.
don't I don't think that's gonna
Jesus
happen,
Christ.
but it's absolutely funny. So also Sandra Dee is in this movie. I don't know if you know who that
Who is
is, but
Sandra D?
Yeah.
I had to look her
Yeah.
up to see.
Yeah.
She was like
Yeah.
the good
She
girl.
was a little
Remember
ingenue back then.
right? She was
Yeah.
like the pure little doe that all the girls wanted to be. I think they sang about her in Greece. I think they talked
I was
about
more
her.
of a Tuesday Weld guy than a Sandra D guy. Just
Oh,
me
okay,
personally. From
okay.
that era of it girls, yeah. But go ahead.
Oh, okay. So she's also like friends with the daughter, and they grow up together.
Okay.
And she tries to understand and relate, but she really can't. It turns out then her mom, Lana Turner, does become a big star, and the Sandra Dee character and the Lana Turner character, they do have their issues and their clashes as daughter and mother and daughter, just as the other, daughter, the I'm sorry, the Annie Johnson, sorry, character, and her daughter who's passing, but it's sort of juxtaposed between these two daughters and the two
It's
mothers.
like a
What
mirror kind of.
right
Yeah.
and what they want for what they want, but toward the end of the movie. So here's a spoiler for those. I'm just telling you it's a spoiler coming. So you can sort of sign off now. But what happens is the daughter says, "Don't sign off." The daughter says, "Mom, I don't want anything to do with you." And the mother says, "Okay, I won't bother you anymore. I will just leave you alone. You could just live your life. If you want to be white, I'm not going to bother you with that. And so but she doesn't understand that the mother is very ill and she's dying. And so she winds up dying. And she has a beautiful funeral because, of course, she was a very godly woman and that sort of thing. I want to say one thing, though. There is that sort of the trope of the Black woman who's always like the mammy and always like that sort of nurturing
Yes.
mother, or she's like this sort of sapphire, like overly sexualized. But in this movie, even though she is like taking care of the house and she's there while Lana Turner is getting her career together, this movie does not make the mom who's the Black woman, doesn't put her in that role. She is there, she is taking care of the home, and she is a maid, but the way she is represented as that maid isn't this undignified
No, no, no,
sort of. You're right. It's done in a very sophisticated way. So anyway, she passes. The daughter finds out, and
doesn't go to the funeral, right?
she does go to the funeral.
Okay, I
But
didn't remember that part. Okay.
yeah, at the last, like when she's like in this sort of beautiful coffin carried with horses, and it's
Oh well,
really,
I
really
forgot that.
beautiful. Yeah, it's really beautiful. And then Mahalia Jackson is
Yes.
singing, which is
Yes.
like everything. If you don't know Mahalia Jackson, she is the person that gave birth to, not literally, but gave birth to Aretha Franklin in terms of her vocal runs and everything just coming out of the church. Mahalia
Right.
Jackson
Uh,
was like that person that brought out what we have today as this sort of, I call it more like a operatic soul, like a Whitney Houston
Yeah.
type.
So
Yeah, that sort of thing. So Mahalia Jackson does sing at the end of that movie, and the daughter, who
yeah.
everybody is absolutely shocked, people are like, "Who is this white girl?" And of course, Lana Turner is there, and the Sandra Dee character, and they're like, "Okay, that's her daughter," and people are completely shocked. So it's a
wow.
bittersweet movie of accepting yourself, knowing who you are, not hiding, but also knowing that no matter where you are in life, there are going to be people there who are going to try to ground you, keep you focused. But she really got it at the end. Like, I really did love my mother, and no amount of passing was worth
She
me
feels
being there.
bad, as she should.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Should
Mm-hmm,
feel
mm-hmm,
pretty bad.
mm-hmm. No, she did, but it was a really beautiful movie.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
so it's such I saw like as I watched it, I was like, oh my God, I'm like completely moved by this. They're
Hmm.
not making movies like that where they're really strong characters, you know what I mean? Where it really
Douglas Sirk was a master
Yeah.
of melodrama, though.
mm-hmm, mm-hmm,
He. I mean, the movies he made with Rock Hudson and Jane Wyman are just
mm-hmm.
phenomenal to watch.
Yeah,
They're
yeah,
some
yeah,
of my
yeah.
favorites, and so he was a natural to remake this. But how do you feel about the original? I mean, that's even more taboo, I guess, the subject in the 30s. Do you think it was well done, or
I
I
think the
haven't
one
seen
is
it in a long time?
mhm. I think the movie that was done in the 30s, because of the times that it was in, it was a little bit more it wasn't as, of course, because it was one's from the 30s, one's from the 50s. It's like this big gap between, and a lot of things have happened in society between that time and the 1950s. So the one in the 30s, because that was the first run, I would say, of a movie of this type. Even in the 1930s, it was extremely controversial. It was hard. They didn't want this movie made. And in the same way in the 1950s, because it had so many taboos, it was like this woman who was divorced, this white woman who was divorced, that they couldn't. So if the husband had died, they would have accepted that a lot more than just being divorced. So meaning that she left her husband with a child. Divorced women in the 1950s, that was like a no-no,
Hmm.
Yeah.
considering all the things that they couldn't do, which was, have an apartment. I mean, she did have a boyfriend in the movie, but renting an apartment, just voting, I mean, whatever, like all of the things that women could not do, but she was breaking out of that, and the legions of decency, whichever, of course, like the
Yes.
movie, yeah, they were like, they thought this movie was scandalous and was
Oh, they
going to,
slammed this movie, right?
yeah, yeah, they
Wow.
thought it was going
They're the
to,
ones who slammed Baby Doll and Lamora.
oh,
Of
really?
course. Yeah.
Oh,
Go ahead.
Wow. Well, speaking of which, there's a documentary that is on YouTube, and it's called A Complicated Woman. I think people should look into that. And it's an excellent documentary. I think it was AMC who did this.
Mhm.
It's maybe it was like done in the 1990s, but it shows the progression of movies that had strong female leads, the things that they were doing. They were CEOs, they were getting abortions, they had multiple lovers, they didn't have to get married, they would have babies
They were
and not
gay.
be married. And then the Legion of Decency came in and said, we have to slow this down. And then from then on, there were movies where that promoted women sacrificing their whole lives for men, staying home, not wanting anything more than just being a wife. And so it's really interesting. You'll see even at the very end of the documentary, the last movie that was kind of made that made women this sort of heroine, over their own destinies. They were like, we have to tamp that down. And so it's called A Complicated Woman.
Man.
It's very, very good. I think people should go
Check that out.
and look at that. You'll see it's amazing. It's the things that women were doing. And then they said, no, we don't want women to represent it like this because it's going to start a lot of trouble.
Those damn Catholics, what is their problem, man?
So that was what happened also in this movie as well. They wanted to ban it. They
Yeah.
thought women would get some ideas to want to have a
Oh,
career
yeah, we don't want that.
and not stay home.
Can't have
and not
that.
wanna- So that's me. But I would really recommend it. I'm hoping everybody does. So yeah.
Thank you.
Tell
That
me,
was
tell me what you
beautiful.
think in the comments.
Yes.
I'm gonna
Yes,
encourage you. Type.
Yes, leave
Yeah.
comments. Let's talk about this, folks.
Yeah.
So I'm going to finish
Let's
off
get in
this.
an argument out there.
Yeah, get an argument going. We've only had one argument on the show ever, and I edited it out. So, so we need to have it in the comments section.
Oh no, I don't.
Only one on-camera argument, but anyway.
Oh, cool.
But the public is not privy. That's going to be when we get big and it's on the Blu-ray disc.
I say the
extras.
outtakes. Sure, where I'm talking about a prehensiled male member.
Y'all took it right. Well, very well.
But I want to tell you something about that, though. There's like that sort of magical Negro trope, and that's why I was laughing so hard. Right. Because that's why I was like, oh my goodness, this is absolutely amazing. I love it. So yeah.
But his character, the thing is, he's not a magic Negro trope other than being magic because he's the protagonist. He's not helping any white people do anything. Right.
That's the other part of it. Like
he's doing it for himself, brother.
Yes.
He's killing the man with his cock. He ain't messing around. He's like, baby.
That's a whole different kind of magical.
Right. He's like, you thought it was big. You have no clue, man. And but it's all allegorical because the guy cut him. He's like, you have no idea what you're unleashing into the world when you literally or figuratively cut into the insecurity of white manhood into black manhood, and yeah, the movie is just, it couldn't be more blatant, but it also couldn't be more perfect. The way it uses fantasy to turn all of that into reality. What is really happening was really happening. I guess it is still happening. Cops are still degrading men and stripping them of their manhood in one way or another. So black men. So yeah, it sucks.
Sorry.
Hi, you've been watching Deep Images. I'm Henry Covert, your host. This is Briggy Williams and C.F. Roberts, two of our most amazing panelists. And we've been talking about an incredible series here. We do these series sessions every so often. We break them into individual episodes. So we wanted to kind of give you a segue and let you know what you've just watched and what you can look forward to. So just want to remind you, thank you for watching, and please like and subscribe, and support the channel any way you can. Do you guys have anything to say?
Yeah, like, subscribe, come back, see us. We don't bite. Type.
Do you like that? We like that. Let me tell you something. Leave some comments.
Hell yeah.
Leave something in the chat. If you like us, talk to us. If you don't like us, talk to us. We want to hear from you.
All right. Y'all have a good evening. Thanks for watching.